Welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your hostess for today's show is Arlene Gale.
Yes, hi everybody. Welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we do encourage you to drop everything and read. I am Arlene Gale, your host for today's show. I'm super excited to welcome you and to welcome my special guest, Texas author George W. Ramphrey. Hi, George. How are you?
Hi, Arlene. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good. Well, let's jump right in it, shall we? You published 5 books since you retired in the last 3 years. And I guess maybe being a teacher, coach, administrator may have given you some fodder for the books, maybe songwriting, being a musician. Do you do everything except for juggle, I think?
Well, I can juggle. Believe it or not, I can juggle a little bit.
Oh, wow. Okay, so he does just about everything. Okay, cool. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what's your most recent book?
Well, actually, I've got another one that was published. So actually, it's 6 books now, and the last one I have is a book of short stories. It's 9 short stories, and it's called Meandering Kudzu, and it's just like the kudzu vine takes over parts of the South and everything. These stories sort of permeate everybody's life, and it covers a gamut from everything to Civil War stories to stories during the Depression to even what they call the Dixie Mafia. Incorporated some stories from teaching, like you mentioned a while ago, when I was a young teacher in the 70s. I incorporated a story in there from that. So it's really a gamut of interesting Southern stories.
And so when did that one come out?
That one came out the first part of May.
May, okay. So it's a recent edition. So you say you get your inspiration, or you got your inspiration for those stories from your teaching. What did you teach?
I taught social studies, economics, U.S. government, world history, American history, law, and I had a minor in English, so I've actually taught English courses also.
Wow. So that explains why all of your books are a specific geographic location and a specific time period. What's your favorite book that you've written or series?
Well, the first books, I guess, it was a trilogy. I wrote what's called the On the Hill trilogies or On the Hill trilogies. And it's Song on the Hill, Promise on the Hill, and Dream on the Hill. And they're actually stories of growing up. The first is a Song on the Hill, and it was a fictional novel about the trials and tribulations of growing up in the summer of 1962 in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And it deals with, actually it's called fictional, but everything fictional is based on true facts usually. And that was the case there. And it was a special summer, if I may say. The background of it was when I was teaching the principal at a school, I was in the library and I was looking at a magazine article shortly before I retired, and I saw a picture of a woman that was cowered in the corner. And the man that was cowering over her had a belt in his hand. And that picture grabbed me emotionally, and I stared at it for a long period of time. And when I got up, I didn't realize it, but I had tears rolling down my face. It really touched me, And then on the way home, driving home, I tried to analyze my feelings. And what I found out is I went to the summer of 62, and that's when my mother was beaten up by my stepfather. And it was a flashback that brought back that story. And that's what I based the first story on, Song on the Hill.
So about how old were you when when that memory or that action occurred? About how old were you?
I was 13 years old.
You were 13? Okay. So that does have an impression when a young man sees his mother being treated that way. So can you tell us a little bit more about the other characters in that trilogy?
Yes. Actually, David Lee is the main character, and he has a brother named Ronnie. And the title Song on the Hill actually came from my brother, whose real name is Johnny. But Ronnie on the hill would sing every afternoon, and he would sing his heart out, a beautiful voice. And so in Vicksburg, you're on all these hills anyway. So on the Hill Trilogy. Well, my best friend's mother had told me that he sits out there in the afternoons and sings, and I suspected that he was singing because he was sad and he was like, letting some emotions go, And that's where that premise came for that. So he's going to be one of the main characters in there. My sister was in it, and she was just there for part of the summer, and then she left and moved to the Delta in Greenville, because we're all in Vicksburg at this time. And then my mother Evelyn was a character in there, and so the whole first book actually just lasted for the summer of '62, and then of course the sequel to it's Promise on the Hill, and it will take after the summer when we actually moved to the Delta, and then the third book that was written actually the time period was like 52 to 62. I went back, I had a flashback and went back and filled in the first part of the story. So the trilogy itself actually extends from 52 to 63, the end of Promise on the Hill, which chronologically is the last book, ends with the assassination of John F. Kennedy time period.
Oh, wow. So are you one of these characters in this trilogy?
Yes. In fact, I'm David Lee.
I was going to ask you that. Didn't want to presume, though. But, you, again, your career, you've got songwriting to your credit. You're a musician. You play a guitar, a harmonica, and I must confess I do not know the difference between a regular accordion and a Cajun accordion. But you're quite a musician, evidently.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, an accordion that I play is a Cajun accordion is what they call a diatonic, the old German diatonic accordion, and it's the same principle. It's the same principle as a harmonica. You blow in, it's a note. You suck in, it's a note. So as you go in or you pull out, you're making two different notes, and it plays whole notes, just like the harmonica does, unless you've got like a shift on it,
Right.
But
okay.
thank you for the compliment. I love music. I've always played, by ear, and enjoyed it. And my brother is really the character on Song on the Hill. He's the one that sang, and is on the picture of the cover. That I had found a doctor in Tulsa, Oklahoma, had made this picture, and I called him and asked him. I said, "I've got to use this picture." He said, "Sure." He was wonderful, and so I sent him a copy of the book. He was really nice.
So are you a singer also?
Yes, I am. I've recorded like 3 cassettes. One rock, which was back in the '60s. We have a tape. One of my books that I wrote is actually called The Tales of the Mystic Knights, and we had a tape that we had made back in those days. And then I've made 2 Cajun cassettes that I've made. So I've made three tapes altogether.
Okay, well, since you brought up that book, The Tales of the Mystic Knights, the Band of Brothers is a raucous account of Southern boys in a rock and roll band in the mid-'60s, and I ran around with a different group of raucous boys, Southern boys, but that's so descriptive it brings to mind the ruckus boys in my life. So you got inspiration from your life for this book also then, I guess.
That's correct, yes, because I played in a band from 1964 through '68, and my brother, who had such a beautiful voice, was one of the singers in our group. I played guitar and sang.
And isn't it amazing the power of music, that it can transcend just about anything and bring people together? Do you capture some of that in the Tales of the Mystic Knights?
Yes, I do. In fact, and even in my trilogy in the '60s, because I'm such a musicologist and I love music so much that I actually, a friend of mine, Dr. Charles Smith, who's is a social studies professor at Mississippi College, recently retired, we got together and made some tapes. And as I refer to songs in the book itself and the text, we made the songs themselves like into a cassette, into a tape itself. And so I listen to that sometimes at night, and it brings back great memories But you're right, the power of music is just really wonderful, and what an impact. And of course, this Rocket's account was we were there when the Beatles first appeared in February of '64 on the Ed Sullivan Show. It just like everybody had to have a guitar, and there were garage bands on every corner.
Wow. Well, and so what bands did influence you and influence the characters in this book, The Tales of the Mystic Knights?
I would say, of course, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Animals, the Dave Clark Five, the Zombies, the Kinks, Manfred Mann, Herman's Hermits. I mean, that whole British invasion. And then along with that invasion, you also had soul music that was really big, like Wilson Pickett and Percy Sledge, and all the different artists that came about then. That the old blues singers and so forth like this. So you had that sort of parallel of music going on there, where you had the soul music at the same time that you had the rockers going on in the British invasion.
So how many raucous Southern boys are in this book, in this story that we will follow?
Well, there were 6 of us in the actual group, but we had 2 drummers. We had one of our drummers who actually, Larry Davis, left and joined the Navy, and he was replaced by Robert Jackson. And then later on, Robert had to move. His family moved, and Bill Hertzler came in. But so I guess altogether that would be there were 9 different members. But we had an entourage. We had guys that would go with us, because we played quite a bit, played gigs all over the South, and they would go with us to help load the equipment, just to be there, for support. And we just to have a raucous time, really.
So did they get to travel around and play gigs? Did you or these characters get to travel around and see much of the world and play your music?
Yeah, just basically in the South. We played all through Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. I think we played once in Tennessee, but just basically in the South,
And about how old were you when you went out on this kind of adventure, when you started traveling with the band?
I think when I first got in the band, I was probably 16, 15 or 16, somewhere in there, and then probably till high school. Of course, the end of high school sort of ends your band years, because you've got to go to college, or it was the draft going on during that time too, so we lost some members.
Wow. Okay. Well, George, we're going to take a quick break, but stay where you are, and listeners, we're going to take a break from this segment of Dear Texas Radio. We'll return in a moment to continue our discussion with Texas author George W. Ramphrey.
Dear Texas would like to thank our sponsors, EBG 247, where you can find ebooks galore 24 hours, 7 days a week at ebg247.com. Wimberley Valley Tourism welcomes people to explore the many fine shops, restaurants, and wineries that make Wimberley special. More at wvtla.com. McKinney, Texas's quaint downtown square, rich in history, entices visitors to discover its more than 100 eclectic shops and eateries. With origins dating back to 1848, McKinney is situated just 30 miles north of Dallas and 40 miles south of the Oklahoma border. One of the country's fastest-growing cities, McKinney maintains its authentic small-town atmosphere, which is palpable when exploring the downtown streets, taking a walk on one of the city's many nature trails, or even visiting the city's Croatian-style village. Learn more about what awaits you in this picturesque North Texas city at www.visitmckinney.com or call 888-649-8499. Bourgeois Media and Consulting, a book publishing consultant where creative inspiration is realized. More at bourgeoismedia.com. Texas Authors Incorporated, in association with the Texas Authors Institute of History and Drop Everything and Read Texas Incorporated, are proud to present the 3rd annual short story contest. Entries can be submitted between March 1st through July 31st. Winners are published in an anthology that helps raise money for the Dear Texas literacy programs, which has helped raise over $15,000 over the past 2 years. To learn more on how to enter the contest, go to ebg247.com or txshorts.com. Contest is available only to residents of Texas. Welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your hostess for today's show is Arlene Gale.
Yes, hi everybody. Welcome back to Dear Texas Radio. I am Arlene Gale, and we are speaking with Texas author George W. Ramphrey. So, George, I want to move on to another book of yours called Locked Arms, and it takes place in New Orleans. Let's just talk a little bit about that book.
Okay. Yes. New Orleans in about 1981, the early 80s. It was main character named Frank Robinette, and Janelle Richard was the woman that he fell in love with. But Frank had been he was a millionaire, but he lived a life as just a regular public school teacher there in New Orleans. He didn't want anybody to know that he was wealthy, so he sort of lived under the radar. And he had been married. He finished at Tulane University, where he was a star athlete on the swim team. And he got a divorce, and he had twin girls. And he met Janelle Richard, who had been a teacher in another school, and she was married to Adam Stone, who was a corrupt politician there in New Orleans. You don't think they have corrupt politicians there, but he was one of them. And so anyway, the way the story line goes, I've got it written in 4 different sections. Frank is going to give his story that things happen, and then after that, he has a good friend named Harry Schroeder who teaches with him that will write his chapters in there that will parallel. And then I have Janelle Richard giving her spell on it. And then I have the main character in there, and his name is, I call him Semi, and he's a Creole cowboy. He dips snuff and chews tobacco and the whole deal, wears Western wear, cowboy hats, and the cowboy boots and so forth, because he's from Big Mamou, Louisiana. And he had been a police officer on the New Orleans police force, but he actually became a detective because he had gotten kicked off the police force for beating up a drug dealer that sold some drugs to a 12-year-old kid. And his brother still worked on the police force, but he left. And so he's a private detective that will get hired a little bit later on because Frank is going to come up missing. And so the setting, I said, it was in New Orleans, but it also, the action is going to move toward the end of the book to San Francisco. But it's a romance and a mystery, and I really had a lot of fun writing it. It was like, any time you write a romance mystery, of course, the romance a little bit testy, but the thing about the suspense itself, you can't fool yourself, because you can easily fool yourself if you don't watch it. So you have to make sure that all your ducks are lined up and rolling, and that you're not fooling yourself. So it was a lot of fun to do. And it's a good feel book. Toward the end, it's going to make anybody that reads that book is going to really say, I really enjoyed that. I feel good about it. It's a good feel book, a feel good book.
That's the Locked Arms. So on the trilogy and the Tales of Mystic Night, what genre would you classify those books as?
On the Tales of the Mystic Nights, that would be like memoirs, personal memoirs, because it actually did happen, and I go through all the gigs that we played and the camaraderie that we had with each other over the years. I mean, I talked to the bass player the other night. We told each other we loved each other because we've been through so much together. My brother actually passed away in 1994. We lost him, and the Kenny Beatenhorn, which is his great grandfather, was the first one to ever bottle Coca-Cola there out of Vicksburg. He died in about 2000. So we've lost. Then Bob Montgomery passed away, so we've lost 3 members that were in the group. And I forgot to mention to you that John Howard Dennis actually still plays. He's a musician in Vicksburg, Mississippi. He plays with a group called The Chill. They're very successful all over the state of Mississippi. They do real well. But he still plays as an active musician.
Okay. So before we move on to other things above and beyond the world of writing in your books, tell people where they can buy your books, any of your books.
Oh, okay. Well, of course, you can find it on Amazon. Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, Texas Authors Institute. You can buy them there. I've got, I don't know if you want to, I've got some bookstores that I have in the Dallas area, Dallas and Mesquite area, called Paperbacks Plus and Lucky Dog Books. I've got them in different bookstores all through Mississippi and in libraries too.
Okay.
But of course, they're not going to buy them in the library, you know.
Yeah, so George W. Humphrey's books can be purchased at the Texas Authors Association website, and that site is books.TXauthors.com, and you can find any of George W. Ramphrey's books there. As long as we're doing this kind of business, George, tell us where people might be able to connect with you on social media, or do you have a website or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook. I don't have a Twitter account now. I'm going to get one in the near future, but they can contact me on Facebook or online at gramphrey@yahoo.com.
Okay.
gramphrey@yahoo.com.
G. Ramphrey, Ramprey, @yahoo.com. Okay, so now you've written 6 books now in 3 years in retirement. So let's talk a little bit about how did you get started writing, and what kind of words of wisdom would you have for somebody who's been thinking about writing a book in the time that it's taken you to write 6?
Okay. Well, you know, it's almost like I had, after I had been an administrator, school administrator, and worked for 40-plus years, it's like I had a lot of time on my hands, and I always enjoyed creative writing when I was in college. And I'd won a creative writing award, and I thought, you know, I'm going to try this. I was playing around the computer, and a friend of mine came over, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just working on this story. It's silly. I'm just sort of working on it." And he said, "Well, can I read it?" I said, "Sure." And he read it, and he liked it. He said, you ought to try to pursue that. So he sort of gave me a little bit of confidence in him. That's when I actually wrote, you know, the Song on the Hill. So it's actually something to do that I really enjoy, going to all the festivals and things like this. I mean, really, what a way to retire, you know. I mean, it's really fun. You know, I'm really enjoying it. And what I would tell authors is just, you know, everybody has something to offer. I mean, you know, there's over 1 million new authors out there plus, and, you know, it doesn't matter that you're not really competing against anybody. You're sort of competing against yourself. So just go for it. If you feel something, go ahead and try to write it. But my only caveat there would be, because you know, as I was trying out, you've got to have a good editor. I think that's the main key. Once you've written something, you can tell a story, you tell it, but you know, you can look at a manuscript forever, and there'll be mistakes right in front of your face that you didn't even realize, because you've become your mind has sort of adopted those mistakes.
Right. Well, and I get to that, you know, I ask every author I interview about, you know, words of wisdom, and eventually they all come around to the value of good editing, because it really does enhance the quality of your story and the quality of the end result. So it's good for me to hear you say that, because as a reader and people who are listening, when they hear an author say something like that, they know that they can go buy your book, and it's going to have a great continuity and a great quality of writing. So that's kind of my feeling about an author. When they tell me that they use an editor, that really bumps them up in my esteem. So that's great words of wisdom. So what's next for you?
Well, I'm actually, you know, because a lot of people say, well, look, you know, you have your degree in history and stuff, but you've never written a historical book, you know, basically. I mean, because the memoir of Tales of Missing Nights is sort of along that line, but I do incorporate history in all my stories, you know, it's what's going on with social life and so forth. But the new book that I'm working on is actually called The Life and Times of Sam Dale. Sam Dale is a man that lived in the Alabama-Mississippi territory in the 1800s, before Mississippi and Alabama came to statehood, and he's sometimes called the Daniel Boone of Alabama. He's a person that he didn't have the kind of personality like Davy Crockett, where he probably blew his own whistle, or, you know, tooted his own horn a lot. He was a quiet, silent John Wayne type. But I'm trying to write a book that's, even though he's had several written on him, I'm trying to make it where America will know who he is, because I think he's a worthy hero in Americana. He is a sure enough, genuine hero. Sam Dell.
So Ken, we just got a couple minutes. What is one thing that you can kind of tease us with about Sam Dell so that we can look forward to seeing this book?
Oh, let's see. Something I can tease you with that. Well, I think something that was sort of significant about the whole Sam Dell period is I was studying this. I was studying the Creek and the Choctaw Indians and so forth like this. I've really learned so much, because one thing I learned was a lot of the Creeks, like Red Eagle, his real name was William Weatherford, and people like this, they were really Scotch-Irish. Their parents had run trading posts and so forth on the different rivers, the Coosa River and Tombigbee and so forth. And they became the Indian chiefs. And I never realized that the Indians actually lived a lot like the settlers in their different little forts and so forth like this, and communal type living together like that. These are the woodland Indians of Alabama and Mississippi. And so I've learned a lot, and I've learned, like as a man, I guess the tidbit of information I like to pass on is he's really impressive, because he was the silent, strong type that had, like one thing, he was in Washington, D.C., and a man had talked about his conquest with women, and he threw his drink in his face and said, you cannot be talking about women in my presence like that.
Whoa, that's powerful.
No, I thought he was a powerful person. I mean, this is a man that grew up as a settler.
Well, and these are lessons that I think young men and people in general might be able to apply in today's world. So, do we have a release yet, or a release date, or estimate when we can find that book?
I'm really taking my time with this one, because it's completely different. It's a different ball game, because I'm having to, have references, and footnotes, and the whole deal. So it's
good. So we'll just have to be patient. Yeah, so we'll be patient. But in the meantime, people can read your other 6 books. So go find George W. Ramphrey, one of his 6 books on books.TXauthors.com. And I just want to thank you, George, for spending some time with us this evening and telling us about your adventures and how you've written them down. So for that, I'm going to say good night, George. Again, thank you, and thank you to my listeners. My name is Arlene Gale, and if you want to know about more information about Texas Authors Association, please look us up on the web. And if you have a comment about the show or a question about me, you can reach me at arlenegale.com, ARLENEGALE.com. So with that, I'm going to leave you with this thought. You guys go out and find a great book written by a Texas author and drop everything and read.
Thank you for listening to Dear Texas Radio. To learn more about Dear Texas and its literacy programs, please visit their website at deartexas.info. I am Alex Anthony, your announcer. Have a great day.